making money, so we're surviving.
Nice.
Hey, it could be worse.
Absolutely.
All right. So, well, welcome everybody. So I'm very glad that we have so many familiar faces joining us this morning. So we're going to go ahead and get started with Hunter, who is going to tell us all about his work and experience. And yeah, we're excited to hear it, Hunter. So I'm going to give the time over to you. So whenever you're ready.
All right. Hi, everyone. I am Hunter Abell, and I am a creative technologies and business management double major at Berry College. So to start off, I'll give you all my origins. So when I was a senior in high school, I started learning about design from my mentor, James Mitchell, in knife making, through knife making. So for our senior class at my high school, we had to do a senior project. And the only requirement is that you have to learn an entirely new skill. And so I chose knife making, and my mentor graciously let me into his shop and taught me all about designing knives. And he really hit the form and function go together nail right on the head. So additionally, I'd like to talk about the U.S. Naval Academy. Because all throughout high school, I wanted to go to one of the military academies, and I was allowed to go to the U.S. Naval Academy's summer seminar program, in which you just kind of go throughout the daily life of a student. And so one portion of it is a class day where you get to attend a bunch of different classes. And one of the classes that I attended was a hacking class. So computer hacking, I thought that it would just be interesting to learn. And it really just kind of cemented a love I had of coding. Up until then, I hadn't had a lot of coding experience. And then I just did that, and it was a lot of fun. So at the end of senior year, obviously, I didn't go to the Naval Academy. I went to Berry College, and I found out that Berry, most of the students work there. And so I ended up getting a job in the Berry Information Technology Students Department, which is Berry's IT department. And there I met a lot of close friends and mentors that just kind of highlighted my love of technology, and they affirmed that, I loved working with computers and I loved working on computers, and so I just had a lot of fun with them, while also enhancing my knowledge base of technology, specifically through my first summer. I stayed to work with BITS over the summer, and my friends and mentors encouraged me to go outside of my comfort zone and just learn something new over the summer. So I got a couple of classes on Udemy to learn C++ and learning ethical hacking from scratch. And this was the first time that I had actually gone outside of a classroom to learn something, and was really the start of my independent learning experience. Finally, Hackberry Lab itself is very special to me, and that, it just, I flourished there, and I felt so at home working with all the technology and working on all the stuff that they allowed me to work on and work with. And so that leads into my theme: creating engaging and memorable user interfaces that leads to meaningful user experiences. And the way that I do this is through UX and UI design on websites and apps. UI design is user interface, and what that usually means is, where do I put the buttons and what do users interact with, and stuff like that. And so it's the choices that I make on my apps and on the websites that I work on, that users actually interact with. And it plays a lot into the entire overall user experience. The best way to describe that is just when a person logs on to Amazon, can they look up a product that they want, and can they get the best product that they can buy? And if they can, then that's a good user experience. And if they can't, if they go to like Craigslist and are looking for something on Craigslist and they can't find it, then that's a bad user experience. So the first project that I want to go into is Sunset Drop, and it was my first creative tech project that focused on UX and UI design. And so Sunset Drop, group and I were together, and we just wanted to create a nostalgic nostalgic game mixed with modern technology. And so the way that we did this was we wanted to bring in this retro wave 80s style backdrop and soundtrack, and mix it with the modern Connect, to create a very interactive game where instead of just sitting at a computer and using arrow keys or a mouse and keyboard to play the game, instead you actually had to be up and moving. And we thought that the 80s backdrop would kind of lead them to remember the good old days of the first, when video games really first started getting popular. So that's kind of why we chose the elements that we did for it. And with the Xbox Connect, we really thought that there was a lot of potential there for making a very just fun and interactive video game that really got people up and moving and would lead to them remembering just a great experience with Sunset Drop. And so when we were creating the whole backdrop that we used, we had to use some of the lab assistants, specifically Hunter Tracy. And he took us through the entire process of making this awesome background. And at the end of the project, I went up to him and I asked him, how can I get good at doing something like this? Because he was really good at teaching it. And he said, take a class with Dr. King. So the next thing that I would like to go over is web design, which was Art 327 with Dr. King. I was very lucky to get into this class and to be able to learn from him, because he was just a great professor for my first learning experience in web design and principles. He taught me all the basics of how to create a good user experience through creating like F and Z layouts and stuff like that. And he also took us through the Adobe Suite, which is something that I use a lot now. He took us specifically through Dreamweaver and InDesign and a little bit of Photoshop. And through the combining of all three of those, I can create interesting web pages just from scratch. And so this was one of our first projects that we actually ended up completing, in which he had given us a bunch of different ways to for users to interact with a web page. And he said, all right, now create a page that brings these all together. And so I decided to add all of these things in an F layout. And so really it just shows that he was great at teaching this stuff and helped me a lot. So after this class, this was in the spring of 2019, and I finally figured out that this was where my niche was going to be and that I really enjoyed web design. So I did the most rational thing that I could have, and I went across the sea to Sydney, Australia, to Laneway Education in order to do web design as an internship. So I went with the Sage Core, which is an American company that gets students to do internships abroad. And the Sage Core asked me, what would you like to do for your internship? And I said, web design. And I was very lucky in that they had just received an email from one of the startups that they had contacted asking for somebody to do web design for them. So they paired me up with Dan Wortley, who is the CEO of Laneway Education. And we called, and it seemed like, and I checked out their original website, and they had some coding courses. So what I thought that I was getting into was learning from one of their professors that they have there, how to do good web design. And, he would teach me the ropes, and then I would help him out in designing their new website. When I actually got over there, Dan sat me down and Dan went, "All right, well, I'm glad that you came over to do web design for us. I can't wait to see what you do for us." And I went, "Okay, I guess I'm on my own now." So this was really where Hackberry shines in that they gave me the tools to do the independent learning that I needed to do in order to learn how to create an awesome website. And after a couple of days, I was talking with Dan, and I just kind of asked him, "What do you need from this website?" And what he said would actually lead to into creating of the creation of my theme, because he said that he wanted me to create a memorable website that just kept the students coming back, because that was how he got students. So he charged me with creating a memorable user experience that was meaningful to the students and would get their interest in order for them to come to Laneway and learn from Laneway. So what I did was I had the old website as a template, and I just kind of went through all of the YouTube tutorials that I could go through in order to figure out what makes a compelling website compelling. And I kind of settled on this style that you see here now, and that these big flashy images for the background with interesting and inviting words on the foreground, which would just be hopefully an inviting experience. I learned a lot about what the difference between buttons and call to actions are, and I kind of combined all of that to create a great user experience that Dan is very happy with and that I'm very pleased with as well. So once I got back, I went to Zane, and I was super happy with all the work that I had done. And so I decided to ask Zane if he had anybody running his Hackberry lab website. And up until that point, he had really only had the lab assistants doing it, and none of them were very well versed in the programs that we were using, and none of them could dedicate lots of time because they were busy doing other lab assistant duties. And so when I came on and I asked if I could run it, he was happy to give me a job and allow me to work on the website. And so our website is really good. So it was really only touching up things at first, but as we moved into this spring semester, a lot of changes have gone into place to create a more inviting website for the students. As a student, I really only went on the website 4 or 5 times over the years, and it didn't really have much impact on my life as a student. And so it was good to create a website that is now user-friendly for the students and would actually teach them skills that they need to progress in Hackberry Lab. So the next thing that I want to talk about is Balsamiq, and it is a wireframing program that we learned about this semester, and I've fallen in love with because before I knew about wireframing and how important it is for web design, I would just sketch things out on a notepad and then implement them into the websites. I didn't for Laneway or Hackberry. I wasn't able to, show off what I thought it should look like and get critiques from there. I wasted a lot of time actually implementing the changes that I needed to into the website, only to get critiqued and have to roll it back. And overall, it was just a very time-consuming experience. Whereas now, using Balsamiq, I can create these awesome wireframes that get me to think about the user interface a lot more, and then pitch the idea and get critiques on the ideas, and going from there. It's also very important because all web design companies are asking for some wireframing experience, and some are even specifically noting Balsamiq as experience that I should have if I want to get into the field. So it's just been a very important tool that I've learned to use recently. Finally, I want to talk about my capstone. It's called Love Landmine, and I've done all this development stuff. So naturally, I would fix my sites on something new, and I would decide to do app design. And so I got the advice of somebody that was older and smarter than me, and he said that I should use React Native to design this app. And so it's very important to me that I create a great user experience through this app, just because it's all about connecting long distance relationships. And if they have a bad experience with the app, then it could reflect poorly on the relationship. So it's about connecting people and having people work together in order to have a great user experience, in order to enrich their lives and the lives of their significant others. Finally, I will just go into a few future plans right now. I'm looking for web design and app design jobs wherever I can find them. Specifically at Atlanta Tech Village, we've received some emails that some of the startups there are looking for some remote web design workers. And so I'll be hoping to get a job there soon. And then eventually, as this crisis blows over, hopefully I'll be able to get a job at Narwhal Digital, which is just a web design